Self-reflection, the ability to pay attention to your own thoughts, emotions, actions, and behaviors. So why, as viewers of this personal finance channel, AR Personal Finance, should we even care about self-reflecting? After all, isn't the goal to minimize the amount of expenses that we have while maximizing our income so that we can save the difference and retire as early as humanly possible? Well, financial independence is something I definitely stand for and aligns with my values. But to get to that financial independence, we have to follow the process. And one of the steps in this is self-reflection. We have to understand, what are our values? And are our previous actions reflecting what our values are aligned with for the future? If not, we need to look at what we've done in the past, critique and reflect on it, and then finally, make the alterations so we can achieve our long-term values. For today's video, I thought it would be a great idea to reflect over my experiences over the past year since the start of the pandemic in about June to now, and looking at some of the activities I've done. I think since this is a self-reflection video, it would probably be best if we got out of our sweats and pants for the first time of the day and try to get into something a little bit more stylish. So let's get changed and get started on the video. Alright, so now that I'm actually dressed up in casual business gear, as you can see, instead of my sweats, why don't we talk about some of the learning opportunities that I participated in from the onset of the pandemic in March till now in June. I'd like to divide these into 3 categories to further explain them. The first one that we'll get into is online courses. The second of these are co-op opportunities, or better known as work experiences. And finally, the last one being public speaking opportunities. I believe all these 3 activities provided me key insights into some of my passions, as well as understanding some of my biggest dislikes. From this whole year, I believe that it was crucial to understand what it is that I'm passionate about, equally so to what I dislike, so that when I'm able to graduate, I'll be able to focus on lines of fields that I'm truly passionate about, while trying to avoid maybe some of the fields I dislike. Alright, so now that we've had a look into some of the elements that I'm going to talk about today, why don't we get into the deep details about the first tool that I'm going to talk about, which is online courses. So the first course that I participated in on the onset of the pandemic in about March was the McGill Personal Finance Essentials course. In this course, we covered a wide variety of personal finance topics. Some of these included saving and budgeting, which we've already covered in our first video for AR Personal Finance, as well as strategies for debt repayment and debt usage surrounding personal lines of credits, credit cards for consumers, as well as student loans. Finally, we also looked into tools like the mortgages, which we can use as leverage, and finally, the real estate market and behavioral finance, and how that can affect your outcomes as an investor, either in a positive way or a negative fashion. I think overall, by taking this course, I was able to realize that one of my true passions lies in exploring more personal finance activities, and it was the main reason for actually creating this YouTube channel. As well as surrounding this allowed me to explore potential careers that I could be able to explore in the future surrounding teaching, which we'll get to later in the public speaking section. So a second course that I was able to explore online this summer was an intensive 6-week program through University of Victoria, and this was corporate finance. Now, we can see there's a trend here of a little bit of finance for these online courses, and you'll probably notice the same trend for the rest of these courses. But in this 6-week course, learned through summer, essentially we were able to learn how to analyze a balance sheet, as well as an income statement, a cash flow summary, and putting this all together, we were able to use something called the discounted cash flow method to analyze the intrinsic value of stocks. What this essentially all means is that we were able to figure out whether a stock is undervalued according to what it's projected to produce in terms of its cash value, or if it's overvalued. And for this project, we had a mini one where we learned how to analyze Apple, which is actually the product that I'm using today to be able to film this project. And then we had a group team final project, which we looked at analyzing the company called Dollarama. For this project, I was able to look at factors such as ESG, or better known as environmental, social, and governance, which is a huge trend coming up in the investment world, as well as some of the risks using Porter's Five Forces model that were associated for Dollarama. This was definitely a great opportunity to learn about the different factors that come when analyzing a stock financially. But I think due to the pandemic, I was able to understand that this wasn't quite my interest of working with spreadsheets all the time and working by myself. Although this was a group project, a lot of times because of the remote work, it could feel quite lonely as we decided to divide the project up. And I think learning from this course, I was able to understand that for me, I would rather work more in a group setting where I'm able to present ideas together or work with clientele and explain to them the various options or risks that are associated with an investment. This could be one of the reasons why I'm quite passionate about personal finance, as it requires a lot of teaching and explanations to each individual. Although for this course, I am quite grateful that I was able to understand what it actually does take to be able to become a financial analyst. All right, so now that we've looked at the first two courses that I took, the McGill Personal Finance Essential course, as well as the Corporate Finance course that was taken in the summer, I now thought we could look at my third course that I took, which was the Khan Academy course, which was taken through September to November of 2020. During this course, I was able to gain some great insights into financial accounting skills to be able to analyze some investor statements, such as the 10Q, which is known as a quarterly report for companies, and finally the 10K, which is the annual report. During this course, the second thing that I learned was an enhancement of my financial analyst abilities as developed through corporate finance, learning how to further understand management as well as ESG factors and risks associated. Finally, the third aspect of the course that I learned was a financial history through the 2008 financial crisis, where I learned about key tools such as the mortgage-backed security, or MBS, or the credit default swaps, or subprime loans. I believe that taking this course through Khan Academy provided me with great insights to learn more about portfolio management, where I am now actually able to have the confidence to manage my own assets totaling about $20,000 through 3 accounts of assets under management. So the last course that we actually are working on for me personally is the Chris Haroon Complete Essential Training to Financial Analyst course on Udemy. I'm currently about 75% of the way through, but so far I've been enjoying the different aspects of the course. The course has covered a wide array of financial analyst roles, from investment banking to sell-side or buy-side analysts, as well as AI analysts, for example. These are just 4 of the few. We've also looked at mutual funds, comparing hedge funds. And Chris has also provided great tools for Excel, such as looking at how to use freeze panes, for example, what-if statements, and pivot tables. These are just a few Excel examples that have refined my skills when being a financial analyst and when looking to working in the workplace. I know from my co-ops, which I'll get to next, how important Excel skills are to be able to go into the business workplace. One biggest takeaway from this course specifically, and it is similar to the corporate finance course, is the fact that working by myself on these types of tools, it wasn't something of great interest. Although the skills are quite necessary, in my opinion, to work in a financial analyst role, having those hard skills would go great in complementary to the soft skills I already have. So finding a way to ensure that for my career I have a balance of the best of both worlds would be quintessential to my development to ensure that I find a passion in that field. Why don't we reflect back and look at the co-op opportunities that I had the opportunity to be a part of for the past year as well. So these co-op opportunities that were given over the past year, and there were 3 of them, all provided significant opportunities to understand what's the difference between the real world and the theoretical world that we learn about in school. All of them gave me significant opportunities, as well as different challenges and unique ones to explore throughout the past year. I'll start off with the first one that I looked at this year, which was actually starting my own venture through the entrepreneurship co-op. My venture that I looked to lead was called West Coast Goalie Rentals. The co-op, West Coast Goalie Rentals, was my entrepreneurial venture where I essentially looked to lower the barriers to entry by renting out goalie gear to minor league hockey associations so that they could provide a more affordable alternative for new goalies who are looking to try out the sport but may not be certain or even be able to afford the upfront cost of goalie rental gear. This co-op definitely provided me a lot of insights about what it takes to be an entrepreneur. For one, you have to ensure that there is customer demand and customer validation. For me, this required going and talking to goaltenders who were about my age, as well as parents of minor league hockey goaltenders, and then finally contacting various minor hockey league associations around the area. I personally contacted around 75 different ones throughout British Columbia, as well as some universities and colleges to test to see where exactly would this service be able to fit in the ecosystem for ice hockey or even other forms of hockey such as ball hockey. Another thing that I learned from this co-op was learning how to actually create revenue models. Now, although it wasn't the most sophisticated revenue model, I definitely learned how to create those pro forma revenue models as well as pro forma income statements, trying to model out for a few years. Finally, I also learned a lot about pitching. One of the events that I participated in during this entrepreneurship co-op was a pitch event where we were tasked with pitching our service to the judges in a 2-minute presentation. It was definitely quite hard to condense it down to this format, and trying to answer the judges' questions, who sometimes could pick at the little details, was quite a challenging and unique experience. Finally, I was also able to create a business plan and send that off to the Pitch It competition to try to enter to win approximately $5,000 through the Coast Capital Innovation Center. Unfortunately, I didn't win at this competition. However, they did provide me great insights into learning how to develop a business plan and sending it off to stakeholders and getting that feedback from them. Now, although West Coast Goalie Rentals didn't go quite to plan for the entrepreneurship venture, there wasn't quite enough demand throughout consumer validation stages. I'm definitely happy that I was still able to participate based on the things I learned. One main key takeaway from this is also the concept of not being afraid to fail and embracing failure as a way to get to an end eventually. I'm sure that although this didn't work out, I'm glad I was able to do it in university and spend the 4 months doing it, as now when I go back and reflect on it, I won't have any regrets in doing this whatsoever. The second co-op that I had the opportunity to participate in was through Providence Healthcare's HIM, or Health Information Management team. For this co-op, I was given the role of a business analyst, and what I was looking to do was work on the ops management side, on the business side behind this. A lot of these individuals had a lot of theoretical skills behind it, but weren't so advanced in their business skills. So they were looking to bring a diverse team member who maybe wasn't technically profound with their skill set, but definitely had a lot of soft skills to be able to communicate with various stakeholders. Some of the tasks that I was able to participate in throughout the co-op work term was creating a COVID return to work plan for once this remote work settles through and individuals are looking to transition back to the workplace, as well as creating a budgetary system and template that individuals could use throughout the organization. This was something that I was given on the lead on, so I was quite excited to work on it. It took me about 2 weeks, and there were definitely a lot of challenges with it. And finally, I also created project plans and project templates, as well as project charters for these groups to present to their senior leaderships, which was quite exciting to work on. Another thing that I'm quite grateful for along with this co-op was the opportunity that presented itself. Since this co-op was in Vancouver, I was tasked with moving from my house, which I've lived with my parents for the majority of my life, and living on my own for the first time for a semester. It definitely brought a lot of challenges, but I'm quite proud to say that I'm still alive, as you can see today. I learned a lot of skills when it came to gaining self-independence, so learning how to cook on my own. budget for myself and making sure I'm not breaking my own bank for finances, as well as learning how to clean, which are all necessary skills I find are necessary for any individual to progress and transition from one stage of their life to the next. So, again, the Providence Healthcare Co op definitely provided a lot of skills to be able to learn from myself as a business analyst, as well as some other life skills that I am glad and will take with me for the rest of my life. So, the last co op that I had the opportunity to participate in combined the entrepreneurial spirit that I developed through West Coast Goalie Rentals, as well as some of the soft and hard skills developed in a formal workplace through Providence Healthcare. This last co op was in January till April and was through Devon Properties in Victoria, British Columbia. My role in this co op was a leasing associate, and some of my duties of this included all the client facing roles. So, responding to initial leads, booking viewings for individuals, showing them the various suites, and trying to fit them into the home that was best suited to their needs so that they wouldn't have any future complaints and would definitely be happy with the suite that they were in. This was a great opportunity to focus more on the client facing role in a more one on one aspect, as I really didn't have that experience in a forward facing role with these clients in my previous two co ops. Based on my interest also in property management, I was able to go a little bit above and beyond by learning from the property manager of how to price specific units, as well as attempt appraisal metrics by price per square footage, for example, as well as working with some external stakeholders as well, which I'm quite happy to be a part of. I think based on my interest in real estate, it will be one of the fields that I have an interest towards in the future and will look to exploring a little bit more after graduation. So I'm definitely glad I had the opportunity to participate in this co-op. So now that I've talked over some of the online courses I participated in, as well as some of the work experiences I was a part of over the past year, I wanted to take a further look and self-reflect on some of the public speaking opportunities that were presented to me this year. The first of the two was the NCSS case competition through UBC. Now, this year's case competition was quite different from my understanding, as it was a remote opportunity, so none of our teammates actually got to meet up in person and we were doing it remotely. I worked with two business students as well as one poli-sci student. And in this exercise, what we were given to do with a 1 week timeline was try to find a solution for the end of life recycling for fiber optic cable wires for TELUS. I didn't really understand much of the sustainable aspects from this. For me, I'm a business student personally, so trying to understand end of life usage for optic fiber cables required a lot of research behind it. I had to contact the municipalities to understand what are our options available, and to disbelief, there were actually no options available for this end of life recycling for fiber optic cables. Ended up contacting manufacturers in the States to see what were their options for this end of life recycling. And finally, I looked into websites in the United States, such as Chicago based LD4 Recycling, to find that there were actually sustainable options available. However, they were all offshore, not in Canada, meaning that how are we going to transport these fiber optic cables from one end to another? This project really provided me some great insights into what the consulting field might look like, learning how to work on different projects that you may not be certain with, as well as the process, so researching about the products, how to actually deal with them and dispose of them. This was all a great opportunity that I'm grateful that I participated in, and even though we didn't move on to the final stages in the competition, I'm glad we at least had the opportunity to participate and were given a chance to present our solutions. All right, so one of the last public speaking events that I'm going to be talking about is actually the one that I'm most passionate about, and is actually one of the main reasons that I'm doing an entrepreneurship specialization to focus on this venture that I'll be talking about shortly. During this public speaking event, which is largely thanks to the National Bank as well as CFE, or better known as the Canadian Foundation for Economic Education, I was tasked with talking in front of approximately 75 BCom students or business students ranging from years 1 all the way to year 4. I was told to teach them about budgeting as well as savings, goal settings, finally, trying to get them to build healthy financial habits with themselves and understand that, hey, it's important to be cognizant of your spendings as well as your income to make sure that you're not blowing the bank off and are not going into this bad consumer debt to a cycle where you can't get out of. At first, this event was a little bit overwhelming. I mean, at least for me, speaking in front of 75 different students who a lot of them I knew, was a little bit overwhelming at first, trying to think of, oh, what are these people going to really think of me presenting this idea? But I think once we got past that initial 5 to 10 minute phase of presenting, I was able to give some key insights from my experiences of how we can better have financial habits with ourselves. One main thing that I realized from this specific public speaking opportunity is that I'm really passionate about actually teaching individuals how to best prepare with their personal finances, as well as setting goals and budgeting and saving. It's something that's deeply engraved in me. I'm quite passionate about the topic myself. And seeing that people are so grateful for the opportunity to be taught on this just felt like a match made in heaven for me. This is also one of the main reasons that for this summer, I'm actually in the entrepreneurship specialization at the Gustafson School of Business. And one thing I will be focusing on this summer is creating an online course offering through my venture called SimplyFin. And what we'll look to do is exactly what I did in the public speaking event, which is to teach people how to budget, save, learn why they should be investing, as well as the different types of debt available and a multitude of other factors. I'm really looking forward to this course offering and hoping I can release it to the marketplace so more people can feel educated and feel financially independent and feel like they truly have the ability to control their destinies and their futures. So now that we looked at all the experiences that I did throughout the year, I thought what better way to end this video and reflect than by going outside in beautiful Victoria and filming out here. So there were 5 unique things that I was able to reflect upon myself and learn some of the strengths and experiences throughout the past year. The first one being, and most importantly, that I'm quite passionate about personal finance topics as well as teaching this to individuals. From my experiences, I feel that I definitely learned a lot about myself in this aspect, and that originally I was interested in the analytical side, which I also learned about through those various course offerings. But I think I'm looking for a more in-person type of experience where I can educate people and really provide them the tools so that they can gain the independence and go on their own and feel truly confident about some of the decisions that they're making. The next skill set that I developed, as I just talked about, was the analytical skill set. So learning more about how to value stocks, for example, or going in and consulting for sustainability, for example, in that NSC or NCSS case competition, sorry. The third skill I'll say that I developed, and this was while living on my own, was the independence or life skill set that were truly essential to be able to developing into the person that I am today. Learning again how to cook and clean and do all those things on my own, as well as budgeting, are super important and something that I'll take forward with me for the rest of my life. A fourth skill that I learned is learning how to work with a diverse skill set of team members. So in that case competition, for example, working with the 1 poli-sci student and the 2 business students from UBC, as well as in my co-op work term when I was in Vancouver, working with individuals who had great theoretical and practical knowledge, but maybe didn't know too much about the business side, learning how to relate to them and communicate with them. And then finally, the last one developed through Devon Properties were those soft skills. So learning how to initiate conversations with a broad different range of people, how to get them engaged, making sure that I'm not overthinking all parts of our conversation. I know a lot of times I'll do that even now, but learning how to do that in a job and a co-op really helped me out. So now that we've kind of reflected on the past experiences that I've had over the year, why don't we look into the future to see what I'm trying to do with all this skill sets that I've acquired over the past year. So the first thing that I'm actually working on right now is actually an entrepreneurship venture through my specialization at the Gustafson School of Business. This venture is called SimplyFin, and what we're looking to do here is provide online content to help individuals understand more of their personal financial habits, as well as help them build healthier financial habits with themselves, so they can feel more comfortable about tools like saving and budgeting, as well as investing, understanding different types of debt and credits that are available for them. These are just a few topics that I thought I would share at the moment. This is something that I've discovered over the past year that I'm truly passionate about. Getting to do that talk at CP, for example, was something where I was, of course, nervous in the beginning, as I said earlier. But as we got through the first 5 to 10 minutes, I started to gain a lot more confidence and was able to showcase truly some of the things that I've learned. And people seem to really appreciate that. I think it's something that I think has a lot of potential, as this business will be student-led. And unlike what's available right now through courses that are taught by professionals who are 30, 40, 50, or even banking advisors who definitely have their professional certifications, but may lack the ability to be able to relate to our target market that I'm looking at focusing on, which is university students as well as high school students. So the other thing that's in store for me starting September will actually be my traveling for exchange all the way to Milan, Italy, where I'll be studying at Bocconi University. This is something I'm really looking forward to. Not only is this my last semester, so I'll get to travel across Europe and have a great time, but I'm really looking forward to learning about different cultures as well as gaining different life experiences. I think taking the experiences that I learned on my own when I was living in Vancouver for my previous co-op will help me out, but I'm definitely looking forward to trying this out in a new country. After all, you only get to be a university student once, and getting to have that experience of going abroad and trying out new things is something that we should all have the chance to take advantage of if we can. All right, so that brings me to the end of the video today. I hope you guys really enjoyed the video. I'll link my LinkedIn in the comments below, as well as my Instagram, if you want to get in touch to talk about my self-reflection, or as well if you just want to share some of your experiences that you've gone over during the pandemic. I'm an open book and would love to hear a lot more about you guys as well. If you liked the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, as well as comment down below what other types of videos you'd want to see in the future. I thought we could change it up from just talking about simply investing to also looking at some of the self-reflection paths. So if that's something that all of you like, maybe I can do some more videos like this in the future. As always, stay fresh and see you guys soon.